I have bought the history of the sweet pea in a jug here. So, the original sweet pea that arrived in this country in the late 17th century was probably this colourway, but much, much smaller than that, probably more like this size. And really, people took not an awful lot of notice of it for about 100 years. And then gradually, people sort of fluffed to the idea that they were worth looking at again. They're not as easy to grow as people think they are. So if you do grow sweet peas and get successful ones, you should be very proud.
Hello and welcome to episode 49 of Talking Dirty. Over at East Ruston Old Vicarage, looking very preppy today, we have Alan Edward Herbert Gray, our happy and very handsome horticulturalist.
Well, thank you very much for that. Preppy, I don't know about that, but I had just popped a sweater on because it's getting a little bit chilly, actually. We started this morning with rain and we've now got mist, but it's a low mist over in Cambridgeshire, smiling delightfully. It's Thordis Maria Sophia Friedrichsen, looking divine in a horizontal. Actually, how do you carry horizontal stripes off? Because I was always told that ladies shouldn't wear horizontal stripes.
Let's just say I don't wear this out of the house. It's fine for a podcast, but my body type does not take horizontal stripes out and about in the world. So it's for this and this alone. Looking very smart, our guests this week, if you're watching the video version, and you'll notice we have multiple guests, people we have been setting up a podcast with for ages, kind of front runners, gurus in the gardening podcast world, I would say. Hortpreneur Michael Perry, also vegan gardener and author Ellen Mary. Welcome to Talking Dirty. I want to go down the middle name route, but then I don't know, Ellen, whether you've got another one as well, or...
I love the fact that you introduce each other with your full names. That is so awesome. I feel like I want to make up a lot of names. I'm like Ellen, Mary, Jane, Alice.
Oh, of course, Ellen Mary, that's there already, isn't it?
Catherine Webster.
I was like, what's she doing?
My name's Ellen Mary Webster. It's as simple as that.
Were you always Ellen Mary, or did you add the Mary in? Was it always supposed to be your first name as both of them?
No, it was always Ellen and then middle name Mary. My dad wanted to call me Mary Ellen, and my mum absolutely refused point blank.
Yeah, but a lot of PRs still call you Mary Ellen.
So many people call me Mary Ellen, and if I get something that says to Mary Ellen, I'm like, my mum will be so upset. But no, it kind of just kind of caught on. And my dad used to say Ellen Mary, and other people have said Ellen Mary, and then that's just what's happened, which is fine.
What about you, Michael?
Well, I used to use a stunt middle name for a while. When I was a bit younger, I used to use John as a middle name. I don't know why. I can't even remember now. I just think I wanted to be a little bit more, glossy. But yeah, I don't use that these days, so no. And obviously I've got the moniker Mr. Plant Geek, and I would also get annoyed, as Ellen Mary does, when people call me the Plant Geek.
Or Mike.
Yeah, or Mike. Never call me Mike. Like, why would you randomly shorten someone's name? Like, ow? It's just like so off. Don't do that.
That is quite the thing, because quite a few people that work with me call me Al, and I've never been called Al in my life.
No.
I used to be known as, at school I was called Al G.
Yeah.
Which became LG because of Alan Gray. And there was another Alan in the class, so I became Al G. What else have I become?
AG.
ALG, Alge. But I was never ever called Al until about 2 years ago, and suddenly it seems to have caught on. People are calling me Al.
But maybe for the podcast today, we could all be like Al, Thor, Mike, and L.
You guys, obviously, plant-based podcast. 4 seasons in, 4 series in. I went all American for a second there. Which is remarkable. I mean, when you started, obviously you wanted it to carry on and grow, but now top of the charts, guests from all kinds of corners of the plant-based world, and it just grows and grows and gets better and better.
I don't know how that happened. I think like with anything that both of us, we're quite similar. Anything we work on is just driven by passion. So you don't often kind of notice what you're doing sometimes. It's just, we're really excited about the podcast. We love talking to different people, kind of pushing it out there. And yeah, just And it's quite easy. It doesn't feel ever like it's a chore, but I guess that's where, your passion meets your career, isn't it? And that's all kind of encapsulated in that. Yeah. So
it is. Yeah. And I'll tell you what you don't do, Michael. You don't clock watch ever.
Oh, no, not when it's your passion. No, not at all.
No.
Exactly. Yeah. And also being freelance, that adds a different kind of element into the mix as well, because you're never off. And I feel like because my hobby is also my career, it's like, well, I'm never switched off,
Yeah.
No, you are like the Duracell bunny.
And obviously your podcast takes things like a step further than ours, because we are entirely plant focused, really, kind of for the love of plants, for the celebration of plants. And you take that into all of the ways in which plants are part of our lives.
Yeah, I think that right from the very beginning, we knew that we wanted it to be, there's more than just gardening. I say just gardening because that is the core and everything that we do. But I'm plant-based, and we're always so interested in, how plants are incorporated into our world. So that could be the well-being aspect, or it could be, in our clothing or our food, or growing, of course, because we do gardening and everything as well. But we just wanted to, like you, celebrate, plants. We kind of wanted to celebrate plants, but we
in
also
every format,
in every single form that we possibly could, to try and just kind of put out there that plants are so intrinsic to everything that we do. And often the perception is it is gardening only, but what is the result of the gardening and growing the plants, and it is clothes, and it's building materials and all the other things as well. So we're constantly discovering new stuff, aren't we?
I love it.
And that's what's so exciting.
I tell you what's amazed me in recent weeks is the realization of just how many things are made out of bamboo.
Yeah.
Especially pots these days, and they you can't recognize them,
No, pots and clothing.
Yeah.
I have the silkiest socks ever made from bamboo.
You can wear them for 2 days in a row.
Can you?
I do. No, because you never sweat in them. They're lovely. And the underwear, but just tell us about the socks.
The underwear is super soft, but I do recommend changing it daily.
We take that one on board, Ellen Mary, I'll tell you. I'm with you.
If there's anything that you're going to learn today, that's it, right?
Well, it beat the old days when they just used to turn them inside out and wear them a second day, didn't it?
It's true.
With it being a passion and with your scope being so wide, how on earth do you go about picking who you're going to talk to? We have a hard enough trouble. We sometimes sit down and talk about all of the nursery men and women and plants people and gardeners that we would love to have on the podcast, but we only have that kind of one topic. You've got so much to choose from.
I don't know. I think it's kind of, I don't know about you, Ellen, but for me, like everything, all the work that I do is always very instinctive. It's almost, I don't ever procrastinate or think about anything much. It just kind of comes and it's just like, oh, we should do that. We should do that. And then somehow it just falls into place. And I guess we see unique stuff out there and we want to share it with other people. So, we can't give them any ideas though. I'm just going to tell you a few ideas for Series 5, but no. It's just stuff comes up and we just feel instinctive. Would you say it's instinct?
I think so too. Yeah. I think you're super creative
because we're interested as well.
I think So I think that we're constantly reading things. You read like the horticultural news and all of that kind of stuff going on in the magazines, and then obviously we both do loads on social media, and you see so much stuff. Like the gardening community out there is so awesome. So we pick up things, and then. And this isn't a secret, but we have like a spreadsheet, and basically whatever ideas we have, we just chuck it all in there, and then we kind of select what we think would be, really good for it, that would make up the series of lots of different elements. So I always think that like Michael's the instinctive creative one, and then I go, okay, well now let's just make this happen. Do you know what I mean? Like kind of I'm the person that kind of reins you in sometimes.
She's the square.
Well, someone's got to be. I don't know about you, Alan, but I think the most exciting thing, certainly from our guests, is how it shapes what you then go out and do in your own life. I know that you've either been sent plants by guests on the podcast, Alan, or you've then gone and put an order in and changed, maybe what you were planning at East Ruston based on something you got inspired by as part of the podcast.
Well, I think I'm probably more like Michael than you realise, because I think I don't tend to think. I mean, I don't tend to think about it. I tend to do, I tend to think, oh, I'd like to grow that. So I go out and I get it, and then I think how I'm going to grow it. I mean, I don't. This happened with with Darcy and Everest the other day. We were talking, and we were talking about. Oh, there's little things like mesembryanthemum daisies. I've forgotten what they're called. Delospermas. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And so I got a selection of them, and I thought they arrived. I unpacked them. They opened their faces and smiled at me in the sun. It was a lovely, lovely sunny day. And I thought, now what the devil am I going to do with these?
Yeah. Oh, same. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I found a circular cast iron drinking trough which had a hole in the bottom, and it was kind of a little bit rusty, I mean, really, but rustic looking. So I filled it with a gritty mix, plunked them in, and they're now sitting on gravel, and they look fantastic. Just there, elevated from the ground by just that little bit. But, you know, suddenly there's nothing but them, and they are the star show, and it's lovely.
If you procrastinate too much, you never get it done, you know. So I'll just get it and then think about how to sort it out later. That's it, you know. Yeah,
but actually,
definitely.
even in a small garden, you'll normally find the opportunity, because I got rather taken in by little Thunbergia, or Thunbergia, however you say it. I can't remember, Arizona something. It's like a dark chocolatey one, and I've only ever grown the sort of more sunsetty apricotty ones. Anyway, I bought it, and I don't know where to put it. But then, of course, you look around, you find a little space. You find somewhere to tuck it, you get it climbing upwards, and you're like, yes, and now it's sort of completed the picture. So I'm very glad I was wooed.
There's always space for more plants.
Yeah, I've become the king of overplanting. I'm planting stuff on top of other stuff, or, you know, I'm not doing anything that the RHS book would tell me to do, you know.
That's not such a bad thing, in actual fact.
No,
because, I mean,
not at all.
One of my early sort of friends in gardening, she doesn't live that far away. She's very elderly now, but she had a cottage garden, and it was literally that, a cottage garden with a little veg and fruit patch and all the rest of it. But her aim was to get 3 seasons of growth from one little hole in the ground. So it would start off with spring bulbs underneath whatever was growing there. Then there'd be a perennial. And if the perennial was something like an early flowering oriental poppy, she'd hack it back and she'd plant 2 or 3 cosmos or clearmies around it to do the show later on. And that's what happened. And it worked. And the whole thing kind of knitted together, and it made this vast tapestry of colour. So, I mean, you know, when you've got a small garden, I mean, it's tricks like that you need to know.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I cannot bear when, you know, you walk past a garden and you see, like, you know, lobelia, one planted here, one planted here. It's like all of that bare soil is not only ugly, but it's hard work, you know.
Yeah, harsh.
I just think it's ugly. It's just horrible. But, you know, so I'm just planting.
If you go back in time, you go back to the 1690s, 1700s. We had the Dutch influence of gardening in this country. You were meant to. They did the bare soil thing. You had a little piece of clipped topiary or something. Then you had a space. Then you had a plant, because you were meant to look at the topiary individually or the plant individually, not see the whole thing as a single picture, if you see what I mean. But I think today we're more about pleasing ourselves, and I think the modern young people that are starting to garden today for the first time, I think they're having enormous fun. I notice there's a greater influence probably in foliage than there is in pretty flowers, if you like.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
In houseplants, for sure. Yeah.
People are looking at textures, aren't they, in different heights, and having like a piece of art in front of them that they can just look at in one go, and there's so much going on. So yeah, I think that's true. That's true. Yeah.
My garden.
It becomes an integral part of their life, the way they lead their life. So their outside space is not just the garden, but it is an outside space. It's like probably an outside living room in lots of ways.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Bringing like the outdoors in and the indoors out, that kind of thing, and just kind of expanding your home for that to be like another room.
It's also exciting. I think a lot of people kind of get into gardening to attract wildlife and to plant lots of bee-friendly plants. And I know, Ellen Mary, you were kind of pointing out the other day on your Instagram, even if you've got a tiny urban garden, you can still have lots of things in flower, attracting lots of pollinators to your patch.
Yeah, I think the perception is if you have a small garden or if you live in the city, that it's hard to attract pollinators. But when you plant, they genuinely do come, you know.
And the birds as well.
The birds, the bees, you know, butterflies, all kinds of insects, even vine weevils. So I've got a very small front patch. And when I moved in, there was already some planting going on in there. But in autumn, I rammed it full. I just made a little path through the middle so that I could at least kind of get into it, you know, and be immersed. But I can sit in the lounge in the city and I can see bees buzzing around. I've red admirals all over the front garden. They just absolutely love it. And I go out there in this tiny space, you know, with all the buildings all around, and I can see a vast selection of insects that you just don't see in the gardens that are paved over or, you know, are just shingle. And so I think, you know, we have to open our minds a little bit to that, you know. But
I think it's because previously, like the gardening media and the kind of the people that taught us about gardening were perhaps just so serious about it all the time, and they didn't really, it doesn't really allow beginners to kind of have a go, and they feel like there's lots of rules to follow, etc. And I think that was a real barrier. But now we've got the internet and social media, you know, people can see there are different ways to do stuff. And I'm trying to push the boundaries all the time. And I said to Ellen when I gave her a little tour of my garden, there's weeds coming up like mayweed, nettles, but I'm like, I'll just have a little, why shouldn't you just have a little pocket of those in your borders? You know?
I love having some nettles. The ladybirds love nettles. Definitely. And you can have a nettle tea or you can make nettle plant food. So, you know, why not have a few little nettles?
But it's more about what other people think, because I'm looking at the same for my front garden. I'm thinking, what if my neighbours see that I've got nettles growing in the garden?
You must keep up with the Joneses and get rid of those nettles.
But I've got a really lovely wild look, and I've got tulips that are going to seed, and I want to leave it all because it gives you lovely textures and also makes it easier as well.
Yeah,
you know, lower maintenance.
But I also do think the younger generation who are now coming into gardening, they're much more aware of the environment and sustainability than we weren't really taught anything like that at school. You know, that's something that they are being taught, and they know that plants and gardens and trees and what, you know, and they are learning the importance of bees and actually how amazing dandelions are. So I think that's, you know, that's part of all of this.
Do you think they're as worried about keeping up with the Joneses?
No.
Good
for them.
Yeah, I wonder if there is like more of an appreciation of individuality perhaps than when any of us were young. And you're right, like it is hard, I think, particularly with the front garden, which I do a lot of gardening out there because the back garden is for the other half and the dog as much as it is for me, whereas the front garden, as long as he can get up the garden path without getting too wet on a rainy day from the plants that are overgrowing it, I'm kind of allowed my free reign there. And I think I also I want to make people smile as they go past, but I do sometimes wonder if they're thinking, why is she growing that there? Doesn't she realize that that's in the wrong place? But actually, mostly people are kinder than that. They're just going, oh, look, there are some flowers. And I kind of hope they might laugh as well. I've got absolutely huge Amimachus at the very front. It's seeded at the front of the front garden, which is ludicrous. It's so cool.
That's so cool.
And it's in front of everything else. My neighbours ended up with one as well, but he doesn't seem to mind. But I mean, obviously it shouldn't be there, but I kind of like that. Hopefully people don't.
I love that informality. When I planted lots of my tulip bulbs, I wanted to plant them right next to the pathway so that they kind of awkwardly would spill over and the foliage is then on the path. And I love just,
When you slip over on the foliage though.
I don't care. I just want it to look nice and informal and cool.
See, we're almost very different, can you tell? Totally.
Almost as if the bulbs had landed from space, you know? That's the look I want.
Listening to the pair of you, there's no doubt who the practical one is.
I'm creative.
It's also the alchemist that sorts through the ideas and makes something wonderful out of them.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of little plants I'd like to mention, not little at all really, but for people with small gardens, or one of them is, and that's Echium pininana, which you see around about quite a lot today. We call them seed towers because they are just, I mean, up 8, 10, 12, 14 feet. But
they are absurd.
Bees. Yeah, they are absurd. But they're a young person's plant, I think. And once you've got, you know, they'll sell seed and you can give the seedlings away, or you can plant them where you want them to grow. And the other thing the plant that I mentioned is, it's called Mathiasella Green Dream. And it has It has panicles of green flowers that look exactly like little green helleballs that fade to pink over time. And it's absolutely buzzing and buzzing and buzzing with bees. I mean, there's just so many bees in this plant. It's absolutely fantastic. And it has bracteose petals. So the texture of the petals is almost leaf-like, which means that they don't flower, they don't fade like a petal, they stay.
Wonderful.
So from being green in April and May, by September, there'll be this burnt rose color, but they're still there.
And that's perfect. It's like having two for one in a plant. And I think that's something that younger people definitely, well, all of us really are looking for. We want to have something that has interest over numerous seasons. So that sounds lovely. I'm going to look that one up.
You get that with blueberries as well, don't you?
My blueberries aren't doing very well on the allotment.
Lovely fragrant flowers, fruit, and then autumn foliage.
Yeah.
No harder working plant than a blueberry.
Well, it would be nice if I could actually harvest some, but yeah, sure.
Have you ever eaten the pink blueberries?
No, because they're pink, not blue.
Yeah. Oh my God. Have you ever tried them though? Pink lemonade variety. They're glorious because they don't have that kind of tartness that you get from a blueberry. They're a little bit sweeter.
Obviously, blueberries not working so hard for you on your allotment or in your garden. But for you, Ellen Mary, as a small garden owner, what is your kind of favourite performer for a lot of interest?
Okay, so in my front garden, I have absolutely rammed it full. I've got, actually, this is a really basic one that we all know. Sorry, all the hands. I really
Jazz
love
hands.
Jazz hands, yeah. This is how excited I am. Oh! I really love hardy geraniums because they do last a really long time. They flower a long time. They take up so much space, you can cover all of the ground with them. I love them. The bees love them. But my front garden, I've got a huge big buddleia, and some people will go, ugh. I keep it very well trimmed, but the red admirals absolutely love it. I've got verbenas, I've got salvias, I've got some peonies, which I don't recommend for long interest because they bloomed about 3 days ago, and then we had rain today, and I left my house this morning and, well, they've disappeared, but they were beautiful while they were, blooming anyway. I have got a huge Acanthus mollis, and I love that. Great big green foliage. Do you like that? You're looking at me a bit.
No, I do. I just know when you touch them, they're really painful, the flowers, because the flowers look kind of harmless, like a beautiful kind of foxglove, and then you touch them, it's like, oh, shish.
Yeah.
Shish, you won't need to bleep out shish, will you?
But no? it's taking up loads of space, so it's kind of like a whole corner of it. I've had loads of iris. I've got loads of yarrow, which I also love because that goes on and on and on.
What colour?
I've got yellow, and I've got a really vibrant pink, and I can't remember what variety it was. But also that's great for cutting. So I love being able to cut stuff and put it in a vase, even just a few stems. I just think that makes you feel happy that you've grown something in your garden. You can put it into a vase. So for me, it's just anything that I like gets put in, but it is a bit more practical than just letting tulips drop from space. And not worrying about.
I don't know what the question was, but that was a very long answer for her then to be like anything at the end. What did you ask her?
I wanted to know what your favourite things were for a small space, because I think as someone with a tiny garden, it's
sorry you got such a diatribe.
I think it's really, well, it is obviously undeniably really hard. And obviously, Alan, you have got 32 acres, which slightly rules you out from talking about having a small garden. But it's divided into small garden rooms. And so you do know, and actually your private kind of courtyard area is very small, and that's sort of your space away from the garden. So you do know a little bit about this, even if people don't think you do.
I can remember coming to yours. Sorry, Alan, before you say, and you had an amazing Brogmancia. I can remember that. And I was always bemused about how it grows every year, because they don't usually, you'd have to protect it over winter, right?
Yeah, they do. They go undercover for the winter. We root prune them, we top prune them, we put them into much smaller pots, and we put them in the greenhouse for the winter, where they look as if they're going to die, but they never do.
Amazing.
But cool. Yeah, I mean, and then you feed like the very devil itself. So you do. Because they're so greedy. I mean, and the other thing I do here is I grow lots of things in pots, including dahlias. And
Right.
visitors to the garden said, well, I didn't know you can grow dahlias in pots. Well, you can grow anything in a pot if the pot's big enough, if you look after it well enough. It probably some things like roses in particular are more successful if they're planted in good soil in the ground, but you can do it. It can be done.
I think your dogs are agreeing with you.
Yeah, so I can hear the dogs barking in the background. They're like, yes, we agree. But I think the reason why I said about the Brogmancia is that, I've the back garden at mine is just a patio and everything's in pots. And that's another thing that, like, just what you said, Alan, sometimes people don't realize that you can grow anything in the pot. Even when you read something that says, oh, don't grow this in a pot, or it doesn't.
Don't believe anything you read.
Or it might say, it might not say this can be grown in a container, so you assume that it
always
can't.
Try it.
But anything can be pretty much grown in a container with the right care. And so, like with your Brogmancias, for example, if you have a small space, you could literally have the most stunning plants that you would never imagine could grow and in a pot. And that's incredible. You can create tropical spaces. Why are you laughing at me? You could create a Mediterranean space in a small garden, have a little olive tree, which is doing amazingly well. I love small spaces because I think it makes you get creative. You have to really think about it and use all of your vertical space as well.
Alan, your courtyard area, what do you plant in that?
Well, I'm always experimenting with it. And as you know, around my back door, I have a fuchsia, very small silver leaf fuchsia, but growing through that, and it's full of bloom right now, is jasmine polyanthemum, which is the jasmine that everybody buys at Christmas on those little round hoops. Supposedly tender, but it grows there and it grows really well. And so I'm always experimenting. There's another jasmine that comes from India somewhere, and I can't remember the name of it, again, which is supposed to be tender, but it grows in my back courtyard, which is, the kitchen wall is next to and we have an Arga in our kitchen, which is on the whole time. So presumably there must be some residual heat that goes through the wall. What's the national flower of Chile, Michael?
Oh, I don't know.
It's called Lapageria rosea.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that plant. Oh my God. There's a white one as well. We used to sell it for Thompson Morgan.
It has these lovely waxy bells that are born in September and October. Very difficult to grow in this country. It's very difficult to grow under glass because it dislikes heat. It grows in the forests of Chile, and where it has kind of a level temperature with high humidity. So but it's not, it's the kind of temperature, if you took your shirt off and you went out into the air would feel cold, but it's very moist. Anyway, so I grow that in there as well. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's a continual experimentation in actual fact, because I also collect old-fashioned pelargoniums, zonals, regals, and uniques. And any of those that I'm trying out, I put in my little sun trap with my kitchen courtyard, as I call it.
Oh, that's cool.
They go on a table in there and they sit there, and I can assess them. And I have to look at them every day because they're by the back door where I come and go. And it encourages you, I think, to push the boundaries.
Yeah, I love the fact that really in any space, but certainly in a small space as well, you can create kind of like your own microclimate. And isn't it funny how kind of different things impact it? Like your Arga may actually be impacting what you can grow in your courtyard. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, you wouldn't imagine that. Yeah.
No, you're so right, because it just that it's probably a minuscule difference between being too cold and being warm enough, and it's not. It's not as if all my heat is escaping through the wall, but it does make that much difference. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I also like that our resident practical person, Ellen Mary, thought to put some kind of path into her garden, because I got so carried away planting up my tiny front garden that I very much didn't do that. And it was all right, obviously, to begin with, because you can step into quite large gaps. But now that my euphorbia and my stachys and all these things have rather expanded as I get older, they have gone outwards, and now my other half sort of looks at me and says, my other half looks at me and is like, yeah, we need the meter reading, and I have to tiptoe. and like stand
I've
on
done
one
the same
leg
with
and-
my front garden. Yeah.
To be
Nowhere to
fair,
step.
I have put the path in, but the olive tree is standing right in front of the gas box, and I didn't plant the
gas
olive tree was
box.
already there, and it is a little bit of a fiddle to get into the gas box, but I'm not moving that olive tree. So
I can give you small space gardening ideas, but I can show you my small space.
Yes.
You're already
Oh,
on.
Alan and I love the nosy factor.
Oh, can you see? It's awkward when you've got a Mac, isn't it?
Oh, lovely.
Oh yeah, that looks good.
Yeah. Oh, can you see?
That looks, I love your hanging chair.
Oh, yeah, it's really cool. I love a little swing. Yeah. So it's worked really well. And to be honest, it's so dense. And there's this part in the middle where I was tripping over my alliums trying to plant my gladioli, and it was all a bit awkward. But I just want it full as possible. And this was only, when did I put this together? Only last October.
yeah, not very long ago. Yeah.
So the whole thing has been created only that short time. And I think people think that gardens take years to create, but sometimes you can make it happen sooner by planting bigger, planting closer. I mean, I'm lucky because I've always got plant leftovers from different, work jobs and stuff, but I just shove it in really. And it just becomes this whole melange of stuff.
Certainly in a small garden, you can definitely make it look more mature.
I actually, like, when I would then have a big garden at some point, I'm a bit nervous of, oh my God, how do I fill a big garden and make it look full?
Well, you're going to have to get more free plants,
I know.
aren't you?
I need to have a chat with someone who's got 32 acres, maybe for some tips.
I'll tell you what, first of all, Michael, top tip is you learn to become a good propagator, and that's something you'll know about anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, you do learn to do that, because when we started, if I hadn't become a decent propagator of plants, I'd be bankrupt today.
Yeah.
But it also affords you another opportunity, because the garden here, as you know, is open to the public 5 afternoons a week. And so any leftovers that I have, if they're looked after and they look good enough, they go on the plant stand. And that helps us to earn some money to pay for some help in the garden. So, it's an ongoing sort of circle. It's a bit like a digester. You put the raw materials in at the end and something marvelous comes out at the other end.
I love that. That's a great analogy.
But I would just be so impatient. I'd perhaps take a load of geranium, buy some in the meantime. I'd be like, I'm not waiting for them.
Honestly, it's really bad since he's had this garden. He texts me things like, well, what do I do now the tulips are finished? I want to remove all the foliage. I'm like, you can't remove all the foliage. And he's like, yeah, but it doesn't look very nice. So
I don't think they'll flower again anyway.
But to be quite honest, I think, well, that serves you right for planting them right next to the pathway, doesn't it?
What would you do with tulips, Alan? I'm asking everyone on earth. What would you do with tulips?
Well, I mean, I do some and some. The tulips that are planted directly in the ground, we tend to leave them. And if they come up the next year, then fine. Some you will find it will persist in an area that all the books tell you tulips won't grow.
Yeah.
Somehow, perversely, they will grow in that one area where they shouldn't grow. All of the tulips that we grow in containers, we give the bulbs away. We give them to the local school or the WI.
Michael, there you go. Get more charitable and start giving some of your stuff away.
Well, I'm happy to give them away, because I'm worried that I can plant on top of them, but you kind of end up like chipping away at them when you plant, won't you?
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, if a tulip blooms for you in its first year, I mean, look at it as a bunch of flowers. You've had your fun, you've had your fun, you've had your pleasure, and go on to something else in the next year, which you can do affordably in a small garden. In larger spaces, it's a bit more difficult. But I mean, I would definitely say that if your tulips come up for the second year, you'll get more leaf and more flower, and that'll make you more and more angry.
So, true. But you know what? The foliage is not so bad if you just kind of adjust your mind and think of it like a hosta. Early hosta. Am I really disillusioned by that?
I've never really
just kid yourself. That's fine.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think actually, like on a completely serious note, I think when you've got a small garden, you have got to be kind to yourself, and you've got to limit your expectations a little bit, because I've heard increasingly from people like Richard Hobbs, the wonderful botanist. We visited him at his garden, and it was looking amazing because Gardener's World had just visited to film. And part of that was achieved by basically putting lots of stuff at the allotment. It's like when people are coming around my house and everything goes under the bed. You don't in a small garden have the place to just shove stuff. It's like all of my sort of seedlings which are in this sort of holding pen waiting for a gap to put them in. They're just on the patio. It looks awful.
Can I just tell you something? You wait till you've lived in a house for 40 years and I'll say, oh, so-and-so's coming round. Where shall I put this? He said, put it under the bed. That's full, you fool!
A true gardener's house.
I think the other maxim you have to realise is that when you have, I always tell this to people when they get their first greenhouse, it will never be big enough, and whatever space you have, you fill. And you would do the same with your garden. So if you say, I'd love to have some overflow space, what do you do when that becomes full?
Yeah, true.
That's true. It's totally and utterly true.
Well, Ellen laughed at my because my garden's there, and I've got like the driveway, and that's where I have kind of like almost my nursery bed with all the kind of leftover plants or the ones that aren't quite good enough to be seen here. So I guess I have got that hidden spot.
He's got the hidden spot, but it's getting filled up really quickly. And he said, just go and look through that gate. So I went through the gate and then he offered me some plants. So now I know you offered me those plants, but you literally just said they're the ones that aren't good enough for my garden.
No, there's a spare agapanthus that you're very welcome to.
Thank you.
There's a pyrus as well. And there's also 50 dianthus plants.
So basically my garden is a second-rate Michael Perry garden.
Because it rained last night, I've been manically planting this morning as well, because I've just been waiting for this moisture.
You do have the allotment, obviously, Ellen Mary. So the problem, of course, if your allotment's all singing, all dancing, and your garden wants to perform, then you definitely don't have anywhere to sort of shove things.
The allotment, I think probably from this conversation, you may have worked out that I'm quite practical and like to plan things out. The allotment is 80% meticulously planned out. I know what I'm going to plant where, but then there's always things that don't germinate, or I get more of one thing than the other, so things get a bit muddled up. There's often things I forget to label. Then of course you go to the garden centre or the nursery and you see plants that you buy anyway, like Alan was saying, you buy it, whatever, plant it, worry about it when you get back with it. So there's that element to it as well. But there's always space. Even if everything is rammed, that a gardener has this incredible capacity to find space. And there's never been a plant that I've been given or bought that I cannot find a space for, no matter what.
Do you have a multi-crop where you have one crop under another? Almost?
Yeah, so that's quite
cool,
useful,
yeah.
Especially like I grow quite a lot of lettuce as the corn is growing, because the corn will take a while to grow, and then I'll harvest the lettuce and there'll be more lettuce somewhere else, that kind of thing. Yeah, there is always some way of growing what you want to grow, no matter how much space you do or don't have.
What's been your most exciting performer on the allotment this year? This strange year
Me.
You haven't performed on my allotment this year, just
Have I
yet,
not? I
no?
skipped for you in King's Lynn last week.
You did skip. Yeah, we went to Seagate Irises and I made Michael skip, and we discovered that Michael can't skip. The best performer on
I can roll my tongue.
on the allotment this year is actually, well, they're not performed just yet, but I know they're gonna, is my chickpeas.
Oh.
So this is something that I love about gardening as well. There's always something new to try, isn't there? And I've never grown chickpeas before.
And the flowers look like a little bird, don't they?
The flowers look slightly different to a little bird.
They
You'd have to
look
look
quite-
at my Instagram for
Yeah.
that. They're quite rude.
A really cute little bird.
Yeah, cute little something. But I have like half a plot, because all the plots are separated. They're split into two, and then there was another plot which is another kind of. There's my neighbour's plot and there's another half a plot. It's been vacant for years. So I contacted the council and said, look, it's been here for years. Can I take it? So now I have the equivalent of a full-size plot. And so I figured that second plot was going to be my experimentation plot. And so I'm growing soybeans and chickpeas. I love that laugh. It's the best thing ever.
What we love.
I just looked up to see what a chickpea flower looks like.
So anyway, at the moment, those chickpeas are genuinely storming away. They are growing wonderfully well. The foliage looks so pretty. The flowers are the talking point of the allotment plot holders this year. So I'm loving those. I've got all the kind of traditional stuff that you would imagine on an allotment. you know, onions and potatoes and all of the salads, turnips, which I absolutely love and have just harvested my first ones, no bigger than golf ball size. If they get bigger, then
Oh, that's right. That's so right.
if they're any bigger, they're just not delicious.
The texture of them is not nice.
That's right.
Turnip?
Yeah, they kind of a bit woody if they.
What about those sweet ones we had last autumn?
Yeah, the sweet varieties were lovely.
Like watermelon flavour.
They were very,
gorgeous.
very good. But the golf ball size turnips are doing wonderfully well at the moment. I garden on a very sandy soil, but I use plant grow, and I know Alan.
So do
I know. I knew I'd seen you on their advertising.
I want some more.
And
who do I need to flirt with?
Who do you need to flirt with? This is what we have to deal with. But it really helps to retain the moisture in that sandy soil, and carrots grow superbly well because it's retaining the moisture, but the sandy soil is just perfect for growing kind of root crops.
You'd be good at bulbs then as well, right?
All the spring bulbs were really good this year. Generally,
like a mini Kirkenhof. Why does that sound so saucy? Oh, you're a mini Kirkenhof.
Because you make it sound saucy. That's why.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
May I see your Kirkenhof?
Yeah, she'll show you.
I don't think he was talking to me.
Oh, really? Well, I will as well, but you have to pay a subscription. Oh my God, where am I?
But basically, your soil is great for what you want to grow.
Yes. After all of that, the soil is wonderful. It's a sandy soil, but it's no dig. Plant grow on top, retains the moisture. It seems to be a really good combination for growing vegetables. So yeah, all is good.
And then seeing as we have, you know, a real vegan enthusiast, like you are big on sort of singing the praises of a vegan lifestyle and inspiring other people.
That's so nice to say that. Thank you, because I don't ever want to sound like I'm preaching it or anything. I don't. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to sound like that in any way at all. All I can say is that I know how amazing it's been for me and my health and my own well-being. And as far as I'm concerned, when you look at plants, like plants are everything. You know, my whole world is about plants. So to eat a plant-based diet kind of just seemed very natural to me, you know, and when I look at like this amazing planet that we live on, you know, we're a species the same as every other species, and I wouldn't want to eat you, so I'm not going to eat meat or fish either. But you know, but growing my own vegetables, it makes you eat more plants in your diet. So even if you do eat, you know, meat and fish as well, when you grow your own, you can't wait to eat what you've grown. You know, it's so exciting and it's so much more flavoursome. And I just find, for me, that kind of whole, the veganism, the plant-based living, it's taught me more empathy. It's taught me patience. It's just taught me to look at the world in a different way, and it's improved my health and my mental health well-being, you know, exponentially. So yes, I do advocate it, but I hope I don't preach it.
Is there like I think a lot of people struggle with the idea of making plant-based food like enticing, particularly if they've got a resistant significant other in their household. Are there any like top tricks for sort of, I don't know, sprucing things up, doing something different that people might not expect?
Always herbs. Definitely grow your own herbs. And since
I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Yeah, it's so true. I think the thing that, I mean, I'm not vegetarian, I'm not vegan, but the thing that has always fascinated me and continues to do so is when I actually eat either vegetarian or vegan food and I'm not aware of the fact that I'm eating it and I'm enjoying it. And I'm suddenly thinking to myself afterwards, you know, I think there's what?
How did that taste so good?
Yes, exactly that. Yeah.
So usually the meat that we eat, the flavor isn't really actually just in the meat, it's in the seasoning, you know, or how we season our food. So that's really no different with vegan food. You know, it's seasoning it well, you know, lots of lovely, delicious herbs. And there's so many more, you know, herbs that are available now, like hot and spicy oregano, for example. It's amazing. Like when you put that into some dishes, you know, an orange thyme and lemon thyme, and you get to experiment with all these amazing herbs in your food. So you always need to have things like chickpeas in the cupboard. I know I like on about chickpeas, but you always need to have them.
Oh, you love a bit of hummus.
I love hummus. Yeah, he takes a mickey out of me because I eat hummus all of the time. But
hummus is her go-to.
I think it's like it's really taking cooking back to basics. So actually taking out the meat, which is the addition, and just looking at the fruit and vegetables, you know, and making those tasty. Well, and it's not that hard.
Yeah, even for non-vegans, there shouldn't be the assumption that you need to eat meat with every meal anyway. That seems really silly to me. I don't know. I
mean, we already know that if we just lessen our meat intake, that's a great thing, you know. So if we do that and we grow our own food if we can, or, you know, buy.
Hello, Mary, when are we going to have a cookbook?
Oh, you never know. You never know.
I mean, you know, the way I'm listening to you talking about veganism. The way I'm listening to you talking about veganism, in actual fact, you know, there's a little bit more to this than perhaps just changing your diet.
Yeah, I think it is. It takes you on a bit of a journey, you know. When I first, so I'll tell you very briefly why I became vegan. It was purely selfish. I kept getting indigestion. So I was vegetarian for quite a few years anyway, but I kept getting really bad indigestion. I had loads of tests and it was really getting me down. Every time I ate, I'd get indigestion, and someone somewhere said to me, try eating plant-based. And I thought, well, I'll just do it for a month and see if it works. And I said to my husband, who was a massive meat eater, you know, he would have to have meat, you know, with pretty much every meal. I said, look, can you help me out here? Because I don't know what I'm doing. Can you do it with me for about 3 weeks? You know, so the shopping is easier, so my cooking is easy, you know, all of that. And he said, yes, but not the milk. I want to have my milk. And I said, no, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And he was like, oh, you know, if I've got to. Anyway, after 3 weeks, my indigestion had improved massively. And my husband is still vegan to this day. He would absolutely not go back because the food we made was so good. There's something even more special about growing your own food as well, you know, and just learning to cook better. So it might be that he's still vegan because I have learned to cook better than before, perhaps, I don't know. But it is a journey. And so, you know, after a few months, you then start thinking, about the planet and how reducing meat intake and the seas and such like, it's beneficial. You know, we do need to be looking at our diets going forward. And then I just found in general this whole kind of more empathetic view for people in the planet, really. So I think you do, it is bigger than just not eating meat or dairy, and you go on a lovely journey. And yes, sometimes you do miss cheese and you might miss eggs and you might want a Cadbury's chocolate bar. But once you've kind of got to the point where you understand what you're doing better and why, you just don't really want it anymore.
I feel inspired. Never mind FOMO. I've got like lifestyle FOMO.
Herbs, anyway. The question was about, well, you know, cooking. Herbs. That's it. That's my answer.
I think that's not FOMO, that's FOLO.
FOLO.
Fear of living out. And we just had a vegan takeaway for lunch, and you had, I think it was seitan, you know, this kind of gluten meat substitute. And you kind of, if you gave that to someone that didn't know, they probably would assume it was meat. Yeah. Because it was just, you know, shavings on top of chips. Like, and
jackfruit.
Meat.
Jackfruit's amazing.
Banana blossom.
Banana blossom you can make into like fish. So wrap your banana blossom with some seaweed.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
And then batter it, and it's just like a piece of fish. And yes, so jackfruit, you can kind of make that into like barbecue pulled pork.
Oh, look.
Michael got his tins out. So there's so many plants that you can actually kind of make to be similar to the texture and flavour of meat.
With that, when I had banana blossom in Erpingham in Norwich, I was amazed because when you open a banana blossom, it almost looks like you've got bones inside. So it's like, it looks like bony fish. It could not be more realistic. It's amazing.
Right, well, before we have to wrap things up, we should do some flow-mo so that plant, seeing as we are basically completely plant obsessed in a kind of growing way on this podcast, the plant that you've seen, whether it's on Instagram, in a magazine, in someone's garden, you're like, oh, I want to grow that. That is what flow-mo is for us. Actually, mine, I saw this so long ago on your Instagram, Michael, and it was very similar time. It was on Alan's Instagram. And it's a Kalanchoe called Dolly, and I've not seen it on anybody else's Instagram.
Go get it, Ellen, go get it.
I'll get
You got Dolly. Can we say hello, Dolly?
I'm actually testing it as an outdoor patio plant at the moment. But these Kalanchoe, they're a bit odd because they flower and then they're kind of done. But Dolly might be a bit different. Definitely the smaller ones, they're over. But look, isn't it gorgeous?
Oh, I love it.
Oh my God.
So basically like a flaming Katie on steroids.
Yeah. But also, I know you love it as well, the Magic Bells one.
The Magic
Oh
Bells.
my God, they're
Let
amazing.
me get you Magic Bells.
Oh, this is show and tell. We're doing show and tell as well as flow-mo, aren't we?
At the same time.
Can I get the pink one out?
But you'll have to wait for that.
Are you listening?
That one's dead. That one's dead. Get the other one.
It's got the pink on it.
It's dead, but you don't notice it's dead because it's got those papery flowers on.
Oh, look.
Look at that. Isn't that cool?
Dun, dun, dun.
Wow. Love it.
But they are cool. They're
How
a bit
cool is
flimsy
that?
though. You feel like that could break really
But they
easily.
don't.
No.
That's awesome.
And they
I
last
want that.
longer than any of the other Kalanchoe, actually, to be honest. I keep saying Kalanchoe because I made some content for Always Kalanchoe, the Dutch company, and they corrected my pronunciation. My least favorite thing in horticulture. I'd just been saying Kalanchoe for years, and they were like, we'd rather you said Kalanchoe. I was like,
They're paying, so you say it.
That's true.
but I don't know what the fuss is about that stuff, but yeah.
I do need Dolly in my life, though, whether it's a Kalanchoe, a Kalanchoe, or as I spent the early part of my life before I got properly into gardening, saying a Kalanchoe.
Yeah, I've said Kalanchoe in
Which
the
is
past.
also
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
I've said Kalanchoe, yeah.
What did you just show and tell us in the midst of that? Because it's still peeping
have
into
we
the
done
edge of this
flow-mo or
picture.
not?
Well, we got distracted, but bring it in.
Yeah.
Just throw flowers at the screen.
Well,
Go
our I guess with flow-mo, our Mechanopsis is disqualified because everyone chooses them.
Which one?
Oh.
I don't know what my flow-mo would be.
I think I know what mine would
Yeah?
be.
What is it?
I saw them in your garden earlier on.
Ooh.
The
What is it?
Lictrum, which I cannot
Oh,
grow, and they're
really?
so dainty and so pretty. They like a little bit of shade. Is that why perhaps my garden's super hot and
Some and
sunny?
I've seen them in sun as well.
Yeah, some and some. In some actually grow in very, very moist conditions.
Right.
Some grow in almost pure sand. So it
Interesting.
depends on which variety you've got.
Well, maybe
Yeah.
I'll look that one up and try them on the
Yeah, I'm not
allotment.
even sure what
then,
I've got, but-
maybe. But I noticed them growing in your borders, and they're just the dainty little flowers are so pretty, and I've just never really grown them before. So I'm pretty that's what I would pick.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Oh, sorry. I want to tell you about old plants now. Do you know this Camellia, the one called Cupido?
Yes.
Oh my God, it's lovely. It's got a flower that's only that big. It's
Yeah.
literally 2 centimeters across, but it only flowers for a week. 1 week out of 52, I was apoplectic. Oh my God, it's so not worth it.
I have another one, and Alan, this is because I saw it at East Ruston many years ago, and it's the Puya, the one with the blue flowers. And I can remember you saying that when it's in countries where there are hummingbirds, that hummingbirds love it, and I would love to have one of those.
Yeah.
Well, in actual fact, it's funny you should say that, Ellen Mary, but we've got 2 sorts that are flowering this year for the first time in 5 years. One of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
And that's the one with brilliant sort of turquoise flowers, 3-petal flowers, little orange tipped anthers.
That's the classic one. Yeah.
They're
It
just
goes up to I don't know, 8, 10, 12 feet.
stunning.
But the other one, which is Puya coerulea, which has the most vibrant blue flowers, and again pollinated by hummingbirds. But the bees and the wasps and everything else seem to do a good job of it for us.
Yeah.
Quite
that's cool.
you get seed when they flower.
Yeah.
There's
Is that
a
your
Chilean
flower?
plant or a South American plant, and they make these huge rosettes, and you have to wait for that rosette to get big enough and strong enough and butch enough to flower. When they do, up comes the flower spike, and Mama down here, she dies.
Right. Wow.
But she leaves behind lots of little offsets, and you've got to wait then another 3, 5, 7 years for those offsets in turn to grow bigger. So we are eventually hoping to get a clump where we get flowers every year. But I have to tell you, the clump at the moment is about 10 feet across. So how big it's going to have to be before we get flowers every year, I don't know.
Pretty big, I would think.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, that's when gardening teaches you patience, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. And the other thing it teaches is to be careful. Michael, you mentioned bear's breeches or acanthus as being really, really prickly and horrible. Puyas, they have barbs on the leaves, so that if you put your hand in, you can't get it out. And the idea is that they trap sheep. And they trap sheep, so the sheep can't get out away from the plant. It then dies, and the plant feeds on the residue of the rotting sheep.
That's almost carnivorous. Really?
It's a
Well, no,
carnivorous
not really, because the rotting sheep goes into the ground and the roots feed on it.
Yeah.
That isn't that amazing? Like that's like the
really
circle
cool,
of life. I love that.
Yeah,
That's so interesting.
What was your Flomo, Alan, by the way?
My Flomo? Oh, well, I haven't got one, but what I have got. No, I haven't got one, but what I have, because I've done this, and I mean, it's causing so much fascination in the garden. We had a private tour on Monday, and everybody was sort of scratching their heads and all the rest of it, as they did at Chelsea when it was first grown. Thunder, you probably know what I'm going to say now, but I was just going to say to people who have small gardens and they want something challenging, a good vertical plant. I've already mentioned Echium pininana. Thordis, you've got your Amime just growing on the path where you say it shouldn't be. I bet it looks marvelous where it is. But I'm just going to say to you, why don't you take a leaf out of Cleve West's book and use a vegetable in your flower garden that's unexpected. If it's taken out of context, it suddenly becomes something else. And this is an umbella. And what he actually used was parsnips. And the great and the good of the Chelsea Flower Show judges were walking around, well, I don't know what it is, you know, scratching their head and everything else. And it was simply a parsnip. Now, all you've got to do, don't bother buying parsnip seed, go to your farm shop and buy a parsnip, plant it and watch it go up to seed and flower.
I'm going to do that. Oh my God.
What an awesome idea.
And it's this most beautiful lime green inflorescence, this umbel in lime green.
Oh, I love umbels though.
I love umbellas. They're awesome. Yeah. Oh, that is an excellent idea.
And if it goes to seed, you can have lots and lots of parsnips.
Yeah, definitely. But they're above to germinate, aren't they? Are they not?
Yeah, they can be, but they're not if you let the seed just scatter on the ground.
Nah, easy. No problems there.
Not in that soil on my allotment.
Final little bit of the podcast, because we talked so much about everything else. We didn't really do any show and tell, but clearly you've got plants by the screen.
Well, I brought this here, and Alan, I hope you know this petunia already, because this is. It's quite new to market. It's been around perhaps 2 seasons now. It's amazing. It's a hybrid with Calibrachoa and petunia, and it's called Beauty Cow. And the colours are just out of this world. Look at those colours.
God. Amazing.
Aren't they gorgeous? Look.
Pinks, oranges, cream, scarlets.
Terracotta. You've got the kind of vanilla there. Caramel.
Can you keep the pink ones and keep the red ones? And I'd like the terracotta and the caramel.
No, those three just
really
work perfectly.
I know exactly what I'd use them in for a summer container, and that would be that begonia called Dying Embers, which has brown foliage and orange flowers.
Yeah.
And I'd also use that lovely little oxalis with the orangey red stems and bright limey yellow leaves. That would look fantastic.
It's really such a cool plant.
Say the name again, Michael, please.
You got Beauty Cow.
Who on earth thought that?
But it's amazing. It's from Sakata in Japan, and it's been around a couple of seasons. Very weatherproof. Really, I mean, this is a color break I've never seen before. It's just amazing. And I've actually underplanted my bamboo with it, and I'm really excited about the coffee colors underneath the stem there.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, really cool.
I sowed a packet of seed from Sakata in Japan. Well, I didn't. Ian did, who works in the garden here. it was 19 years old and we had 100% germination. Can you believe that?
What was it? What was it?
It was Zinnia, and it was one of the first sort of foil packets that was ever used. It was quite amazing.
That seed
That's
wanted
cool.
to grow, that's
Yeah.
for sure. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Have you
Yep.
got a show and tell then?
Well, I'm at your house, so I didn't bring a show and tell because somebody didn't warn me. But I will just show you something that I've noticed sitting on Michael's worktop.
Gooseberries?
Yes. I'm gonna
No, it's an
show and
egg.
tell- I'm going to show and tell these gooseberries, mainly because I absolutely love gooseberries.
We're going to have gooseberry
We're
gazoos
going
in
to
a
have
minute.
gooseberry gazoos. And also I noted there's a bit of a theme running through this podcast with regards to the plants that I like. They're all prickly. All the plants I've mentioned that I like are prickly. And yesterday I was
'Cause
on
you're prickly.
I was on the allotment weeding, and I've been literally covered in scratches from being in the gooseberries. So that's my show and tell. Gooseberries.
Yeah.
Guys, it's been so much fun. Will you come back again?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We love chatting plants and gardening.
Just
so
before we
yes.
go, remember my book. I'm called Mary Ellen and it's called The Joy of Growing. Thank you. Good night.
Have a lovely day, everybody, and happy gardening.
Thank you. Happy gardening.
Thank you very much.
I can't talk, I'm laughing too much.
Oh, now I've got two Michael Perrys trying to join. I don't understand.
Mike, get on with your bike. This is something called a tandem. We give them to the local school or the WI or Women's Institutes or something like that, you know. That's what WI is, though, isn't it? Doing.
Helps you poo better as well.
Oh my gosh.
What? It does so. You know that.
Maybe we shouldn't go much further, but I did text Michael the other day and actually said, have you ever seen a beep?
Annie.